in front of the biggest WWE crowd in Tampa ever, according to Cody Rhodes, over 14,000 people in Tampa Bay tonight. It was once again the Judgment Day show. This is a recurring theme now. With Monday Night Raw, it has become the Judgment Day show, but not just Raw. SmackDown, NXT, they're everywhere. The Judgment Day is everywhere. Tonight, they opened the show. They had 2 matches during the show, would have been 3. But instead it was Rhea Ripley kicking Liv Morgan's ass. And then they closed out the show, standing tall over Seth Rollins at the very end of the show. And we also found out earlier today that Dominic and Rhea will be opening NXT tomorrow night. They're going to kick off the show. Now, I like the Judgment Day. I do. I have grown over time to like the Judgment Day, but they have to be very careful not to overexpose them. I mean, you could say they've already overexposed them. They're already overexposing them now. But they have to be careful not to overexpose them too much, because what ends up happening then is they get off my TV heat, which is not the kind of heat you want to get. I don't want to look at the Judgment Day and go, get them off my television. I feel like we're slowly kind of creeping in that direction. I don't want to see that happen, because I still like them. But it was a big night for them, with all 4 of them leaving Seth Rollins laying in the ring at the very end of the show. Dominic Mysterio successfully defended his NXT North American Championship on the show as well. Rhea Ripley injured Liv Morgan. And Damian Priest, a 0 point, had to activate. He had to do that, right? You had to activate that mode. Damian Priest had a quick match tonight as well, just to give him a win. Just to give him a win. It's nice to see the Money in the Bank winner actually picking up wins, so I can't complain about that. They also made a few SummerSlam matches official. These were very obvious matches, but they were made official tonight. Drew McIntyre against Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Logan Paul one-on-one with Ricochet. And Shayna Basler will be taking on Ronda Rousey. But it is also the walking wounded, it sounds like, in WWE right now, because we had 2 injury angles on the show. One of them involved Kevin Owens, and it was a pretty minor angle. We didn't actually see him, get his ass kicked by the Judgment Day per se, but he was quote-unquote injured. Turns out that he really is injured. He is dealing with a legitimate injury, and possibly so is Liv Morgan. And she was the other one who was part of the injury angle tonight, a major injury angle on the show. So at least a couple of people probably dealing with some legitimate issues right now in the company. How severe, how long they may be out for, that we don't know. But we're going to talk about that, because this is your Monday Night Raw review for Monday night, July 24th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for kicking off your week here with me. It's funny, because I liked Raw last week. I actually thought last Monday's Raw was the best Raw that I've seen in months. Tonight's show was not a bad show, but I just thought it was more boring than the show last week. The show last week passed by a lot quicker than Raw normally does. Tonight felt like a 3-hour show. It's the number one thing I hate about Raw on most weeks. It feels like a 3-hour show. Whatever it was about last week, it breezed by a lot quicker for me. Tonight, that was not the case. So I like last week's show better than this week, but this week was not a bad show. Hit that like button and subscribe if you are not already subscribed to the channel. If you're not, what are you doing here? Come on, let's go. Chop, chop. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a super chat if you would like to do so. I will be reading all of your messages. If you are new to the channel, if you want to drop a super chat, it is voluntary, but I will shout you out, read through your questions a little bit later on. The goal tonight for Be the Booker is 400 likes. If we can reach that goal, if we can at least attain that much tonight, we will do Be the Booker later on. If not, then we won't. And I want to wish a happy birthday to a good brother for life, Schulz. I don't know which day your birthday is this week, but I know it's your birthday, so happy birthday, brother. Samantha Irvin introduced the Judgment Day to open the show. Get used to seeing them because they're all over the place. Hey, Mike Rouse is subbed. He wanted me to know that he is subbed. So, Mike, that salute is for you, brother. Thank you. She introduced the Judgment Day. They were already in the ring. All of them except Dominic. So Finn Balor was there, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. Balor set up a video package showing us Dominic's North American title win over Wesley. That was from NXT last Tuesday when he won the championship. Rhea then introduced the hottest man that she knows, her Latino heat, and the new NXT North American champion, Dominic Mysterio, who came out, of course, to booze. I mean, what else would he walk out to? The one thing I will say, I'd much rather walk out to booze than crickets. He gets a bigger reaction than most do on this television show. So Dominic took the microphone, and what a period this is for Dominic Mysterio, right? This kid is still wet behind the ears. He's still new to all this, relatively new to all this. He's the rookie of the group. Look at the week that he had last week. He wrestled in and I mentioned this on the podcast, he wrestled in the Raw main event on Monday. He wrestled in the NXT main event on Tuesday and won an NXT championship. And he wrestled in what basically was the main event. It was the last match on the show on SmackDown on Friday night, defending against Butch. So he became the first person, I believe, ever to headline or main event Raw, NXT, and SmackDown all in the same week. And then here this week, he opens the show, he wrestles on the show, he closes the show. This kid is all over the place. This kid is all over the place. So if you are not a Dominic Mysterio fan, boy, you are punching air right now because you can't get rid of this fucking kid. I happen to like, what Dominic is doing, so I don't mind so much. But again, you risk overexposure if you're not careful.
Dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Paul Hamilton dropping a $100 super chat bomb here on a Monday night. Hey, Paul, what's going on, man? Paul's in a different time zone. Paul's all the way out west. So Paul's a few hours behind me. What Raw needs is a visit from Commissioner Solomonster, he says. Well, I'd make a few decisions on this show. I think what I might do actually is I might just ban the Judgment Day from the building is what I might do. Hey, Paul, thank you, brother. We love Paul all the way from Portland. So Dominic took the microphone. He started talking. Of course, the crowd was trying to boo over whatever he was saying. He set up another video package that had just various highlights of him. So then they're interrupted by Kevin Owens' music, and Kevin Owens comes out with Sami Zayn. They walk out on stage. Owens remembers beating the Judgment Day on last week's Raw. They had that excellent main event for the tag team titles. Owens said that it bothers him when people don't learn. And he accused Dominic of showing video packages to try to make himself look good. Dominic said that he would not be disrespected. And Sami told him that you're being disrespected, but the only reason you're being disrespected is because nobody respects you. So Sami said that Dominic could earn some respect by getting in the ring with him tonight and having a match here on the show. And he remembered the Judgment Day last week making a whole fuss over the fact that they were scheduled to have a non-title match. And they convinced Owens and Zayn to put their tag team titles on the line. So the non-title match turned into a championship match. And Sami pointed this out. And he says, you're such a fighting champion, you would put your title on the line tonight. And Dominic, at first, just looking at him, he didn't look all that interested in this idea. But all of a sudden, Rhea Ripley took the microphone and said, he accepts. So she accepted the championship match on his behalf, and the match was made for later in the show. It would be Dominic defending his NXT North American title against Sami Zayn. How many different versions of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Judgment Day have we had so far? It's been quite a few. They have been feuding a lot over these last couple of months. This was your standard opening segment to set up a match for later in the show. And it wasn't even the main event. Usually these things set up the main event. This set up a match later on in the show. But the North American title here hasn't even been a full week since Dominic won that title, and the North American Championship has already gotten more airtime and more attention than it has at any other point in the entire existence of this title. I don't know how long Dominic is going to have that championship for. I suspect it will not be for that long. So I don't mind it. I mean, look, it's a good spotlight for the title. It's getting him even more heat than he had before. People, they don't like the kid. He's a jerk. He cheats. He has people helping him out and doing his dirty work for him all the time. And now he can flash around the championship and call himself a champion. But it makes sense, again, because every member of the Judgment Day heading into SummerSlam, all except for Finn Balor, they have some sort of accolade. He's got the North American title. Rhea's got the Women's World Heavyweight title. Priest is walking around with the Money in the Bank lunchbox. Finn Balor has nothing. Unless he beats Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. And the way that things have been going with the Judgment Day and all this talk about Rollins, we know Rollins is beat up. He admitted it on Logan Paul's podcast. He's got a lot of different nagging injuries. He's got a bad lower back. I doubt he's going to take any time off until the wheels fall off. But even if he doesn't take time off, I think it would make sense. Put the World Heavyweight title on Finn Balor. And then you have the drama. You have Finn Balor looking over his shoulder because right behind him is Damian Priest walking around with that Money in the Bank briefcase. So it's looking more and more to me like it would make sense for them to do a title change and put the world title on Balor, at least for a little while. The way this group is being pushed right now. Or it might just fit the story better that they are looking to tell, where Balor is the only one who ends up not having a championship of some kind. And that would seem to me like it would ultimately lead to the demise of the Judgment Day. But the way they're pushing this group, this does not look like a faction the WWE is planning on breaking up anytime soon. Now, we don't know how much longer the Bloodline story is going to go on for. The Bloodline is already falling apart. The Usos are out. The Bloodline is down to Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, who isn't even blood, and Solo Sikoa. How much longer is the Bloodline going to go on for? The Judgment Day could be their answer to replacing the Bloodline once that story runs its course and Roman moves on to whatever it is he's going to be doing next. Seems to me like this group is only going to get stronger, not weaker. We had Becky Lynch one-on-one with Zoey Stark. Trish Stratus was in Zoey's corner. She had her face mask on. Now remember, Trish said last week Becky would have to get past Zoey Stark if she wanted to have a match with her, a rematch with her at some point. And I believe Trish said that if Becky were to lose, I think she would have to get "Thank You, Trish" tattooed on her, I believe is what she said. Late in the match, with Becky outside and the referee occupied inside with Zoey, so the referee's attention was diverted, Trish gave Becky a headbutt using her protective face mask. Zoey followed that with a roundhouse kick and got a near fall out of it. Becky then blocked a Z360 attempt. She hit an exploder. Becky hit a superplex. She floated over into an armbar. Stark, though, muscled her up into a powerbomb for 2. So they traded some counters and cradles until Becky applied to disarm her. Trish then threw her face mask into the ring, so the referee tossed it out just as Becky knocked her off the apron. Zoey tried to use the distraction to her advantage. Lynch, though, caught her with a manhandle slam and pinned her. So Becky Lynch gets her rematch with Trish Stratus. They did not say when. Of course, we know when. We know when the match was going to happen. We don't need them to tell us that. And really, as far as this match goes, no mystery as far as what the outcome was going to be. Cody Rhodes was out to the ring next to address the audience about his match with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, which they are billing as one of the main events. This is the second time now. They did the same thing on SmackDown Friday night. This is one of the main events at SummerSlam this year. Interestingly, no cast or brace on Cody's arm. I know that he had gotten rid of the cast several weeks ago, but then he did media this week, and he had the world premiere of his new Peacock documentary, which is, I believe it's premiering on July 31st. But they had a big premiere event for it in Atlanta, and there he was, and he had the brace back on his arm again. He did a couple of podcasts this week. I think he did Sam Roberts' show, and he had the brace on his arm. Tonight, though, no brace. No brace, no cast. Maybe he was feeling pain during the week. The pain went away. So he says, we've all seen the clip of Brock Lesnar beating him with a chair in front of his mother. He says he's not surprised. Actually, he's impressed. And he put over Brock. He said this is a man who became UFC heavyweight champion without even 5 professional fights. A man who many call Mr. SummerSlam, which is true. Brock Lesnar has actually a very impressive SummerSlam resume. He's not undefeated at SummerSlam, but the matches that he has had, the very first SummerSlam match he ever had, he beat The Rock in his rookie year to become the undisputed champion. He had a great match with Kurt Angle in 2003, and then he disappeared. He had that long 8-year stretch of no matches. And he came back, and the stuff with Triple H I didn't care for. I really didn't like the matches with Triple H, especially the WrestleMania match. But the 2014 squash over John Cena, excellent match with CM Punk. I think I had that as either my match of the year or one of my matches of the year in 2013. The match with the Undertaker, and just very impressive list of SummerSlam matches. So if you were to say who is Mr. SummerSlam, Brock could certainly be a candidate for that position. So Cody said one person who was not impressed with Brock Lesnar was his mother, Michelle Runnels, a woman who watched Terry Funk throw fireballs at his dad's face and who used to drink with Gordon Solie down the street from where they were in Tampa tonight. Of course, Championship Wrestling from Florida was filmed not very far from where they were in that building tonight. Gordon Solie was a staple on that show. Cody said his mother knew one thing, though, which is that Brock made a mistake. And that mistake was not beating him up in front of his loved ones. The mistake was, you left me breathing, Cody said. He doesn't want to just go to SummerSlam to win the rubber match. He wants to go to SummerSlam to embarrass Brock Lesnar. He wants to beat him at SummerSlam, not because it would be a positive thing for his career or because he broke his arm. He wants to beat Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam because it is what he deserves. And when he's old and gray, looking back at the chapter about Brock Lesnar in his book, he'll know that he pinned the final paragraph to that chapter. At SummerSlam, he said, I end this. And with that, Cody took his leave. So this was more story time with Cody Rhodes. He's very good at this, but he didn't really say anything that we haven't already heard him say. It's now starting to feel like we're kind of running in circles. We're talking in circles here. No mention of any stipulation, no challenge thrown, no gauntlet thrown down to Brock. I challenge you to this type of match. There was no mention of any, or even a tease, of there being any kind of a stipulation, whether it be a cage match, whether it be an I Quit match, whether it be a bull rope match, anything like that, or anything that's been rumored. They certainly didn't tip their cap to that. I have to imagine that this will have some sort of stipulation. It's possible they just do a straight match, like their first one. That would be very surprising to me, though. And just a reminder, we are going now on 4 months of this feud. Still have no idea why Brock Lesnar picked on Cody Rhodes in the first place, why he attacked him on Raw the night after WrestleMania. Hey, you know what? Maybe the stipulation can be. I have a stipulation. I have a stipulation for this match. Maybe the stipulation can be that if Cody beats Brock, Brock has to reveal the reason why he went after Cody Rhodes. And then we can get Brock Lesnar, he can put the microphone in his hand, and Brock Lesnar can finally reveal the real reason why he attacked Cody Rhodes all those months ago, because he hates his fucking tattoo. He hates the neck tattoo with a vengeance, and that is why he attacked Cody Rhodes. I would even be willing to accept that at this point. There's probably a lot of people who don't like that neck tattoo. That would actually be a believable excuse. He can get on the mic and say, I find your tattoo obnoxious. And that could be the big reveal. Maybe that's the stipulation for SummerSlam. I don't know. But we did find out later in the show, Brock Lesnar returns on the show next week. Now, you've already You're not going to fool me with this Brock Lesnar returns business. We know what a Brock Lesnar return looks like. Brock Lesnar is going to come out. He'll have his cowboy hat on. There'll be a little pull apart, and he'll leave. And he'll be on the first flight home before the show is even over. That's what Brock Lesnar's appearance will be next week on the show. Now, we had Sami Zayn after this, one-on-one with Dominic Mysterio for Dominic's NXT North American Championship. I believe that this would be the first North American title defense here on this show. We had one on SmackDown on Friday. Rhea Ripley distracted the referee as Damian Priest shoved Sami off the top rope, so Owens went after Priest. The referee then ejected Kevin Owens from ringside. So initially, it was only KO who was ejected. Rhea and Priest were mocking Owens. They were laughing, they were pointing, they were waving goodbye. I guess the referee didn't like this, so the referee threw them out too. So everybody got thrown out. It was one-on-one between Sami and Dominic. Sami hit a Michinoku driver for a near fall. He tried something off the top. Dom caught him on the way down with a drop kick to the face. Got a 2 count. Dominic countered a Blue Thunder Bomb into a standing Hurricane Rana. That sent Sami into the ropes in position for the 619, but Sami avoided it. Finally hit the Blue Thunder Bomb for 2. Dominic did not go up easy for it, but Sami was able to pull it off nonetheless. Dominic drop kicked Sami. Finally, he did hit the 619. Only got a 2 count. He followed that with the 3 Amigos. He went up top for a frog splash. Sami, though, on the way down, got the knees up, right in the gut. So Sami hit an exploder into the corner. He set up for the haluva kick. And then he was distracted. We got a babyface distraction here in this match because he turned and he saw Kevin Owens, his tag team partner, and his best friend being thrown out, back out into the arena. He was laying on the ground. He was beaten up by Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. And Dominic took advantage of the distraction with Sami's back turned. He schoolboyed him. He rolled him up. And he pinned him to retain the North American title. The classic distraction roll-up finish. It has been a staple on this show. It certainly was a staple of the Vince McMahon years. He loves that finish. He loves the distraction roll-up finish that has infected this company for so very long. Not that we don't see it in other places too, but it has become a staple in WWE over the years. And you would think, Sami Zayn is a veteran guy. Sami Zayn's been doing this a long time. You would think he would know better, but nope. Nope. He allows himself to be distracted. So he didn't care about the loss. He sprinted down the aisle. Judgment Day bailed, went to the back, and he checked on his partner as Dominic left through the crowd. I enjoyed the match. I actually thought the match was pretty good. Enjoyed the match. Hated the finish. Hated the finish. It fits with Dominic's character that he would need his friends to help him out. That's how he won the championship last week. That's how he retained the title on Friday. He can't win a match on his own. But that's part of what gets him heat, is that he's successful and he's winning titles now, claiming that he's doing it all by himself when clearly, the fans know that he doesn't. So I get that it's part of his whole persona. But this did not do Sami Zayn any favors. But you know what? This was less about Sami. It was more about Dominic and trying to build up his character, which, that's fine. But it made for a very shitty finish to this match. Now, after a break, they showed Owens being tended to in the trainer's room with Sami Zayn. He was there. Adam Pearce was there. And Owens was claiming that he had a broken rib. Now, you would think a SummerSlam rematch for the tag team titles would make sense because as of right now, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn do not have a match at SummerSlam. They main evented night 1 of WrestleMania this year. They are the undisputed tag team champions, right? You can't leave them off the SummerSlam card unless one of them is hurt. And unfortunately, it appears that that is the case because I noticed during the show it was mentioned, and Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful confirmed it, that Kevin Owens is dealing with a legitimate injury. It may not be a broken rib like he was saying on the show tonight, but He is dealing with some sort of a real injury issue. We do not know what the nature of the injury is. We do not know how serious the injury is. It is entirely possible that if Kevin Owens is hurt bad enough, that he and Sami Zayn could be left off the SummerSlam card this year. It could be bad enough that if he can't come back anytime soon, they may have to relinquish the tag team titles. It's too soon to say something like that. It could also just as easily be a situation where maybe it's not that serious and he's going to gut through it and he's going to wrestle. Maybe he'll be back in the ring next week. Until we find out what the injury is, we don't know. But he is dealing with a real injury, unfortunately. That would suck if they had to forfeit the titles. It would suck if they had to be left off the SummerSlam card this year, considering it is one of the bigger shows of the year. But this was not the only injury angle they did on this show to cover for a possible legitimate injury. I'll get to that a little bit later on. They aired a commercial a couple of different times here on the show for NXT tomorrow night. Now, I mentioned Rhea and Dominic are going to be opening the show tomorrow. But there's another big segment that they're promoting for NXT this week with Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson, he's the Olympic gold medalist who has been MIA. Remember, he was drafted to Monday Night Raw last year in the draft. Never showed up on Raw. So he showed up recently in NXT. They did this whole thing with his brother, Damon Kemp, and they never acknowledged on television the two of them are brothers. Damon Kemp had a Raw Underground match with Eddie Thorpe recently. I know people who don't watch NXT are like, who? Eddie who? Don't worry about it. But Gable Steveson only recently reappeared on television. Now, there's been a lot of talk about him going back to school, going back to wrestle in the Olympics next year. We have the Olympics coming up in 2024. They are building this as like the LeBron James thing, the decision. What decision is he going to make? We're going to find out on NXT tomorrow night what decision he will make as far as where his future lies. I have to think that if he was not going to be sticking with WWE or making his WWE in-ring debut anytime soon, and he was just going to be training for the Olympics and going away for another 6 months or 9 months or a year, they wouldn't be building this up like this. It just makes me think that he's going to announce that he's foregoing the Olympics and he's going to be training to make his NXT debut soon. I mean, again, I don't know, but it would be weird for them to be building this up like this, for him to go, yeah, I'm not picking WWE. I'm going to go do this other thing. It would just be weird. But I guess we'll find out tomorrow night what his decision is. How long ago was that, by the way, the whole LeBron James decision thing? That was a long time ago, right? Has it been 10 years since that? Just realized. Has it really been that long? In the back, Dominic was walking through the hallway with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, bragging about putting a whooping on Sami Zayn. Apollo Crews and Akira Tozawa, they were deep in conversation. I would love to know what that conversation was about. But they were standing off to the side having a conversation. And Dominic looked at both of them and said that they should be showing some respect for the NXT North American champion. 13 years since the LeBron James decision special? Has it been 13 years? Oh my God. Holy shit. How old is LeBron? How many more years does he have in him? 13 years ago. Holy shit. Man. So anyway, Dominic wants them to show more respect for the new champ. So Rhea Ripley asked if they had a problem. She looked at Tozawa, who she's beaten up before, and she said, "Do you have a problem?" He said, "Nope," and he walked off. And Damian Priest was face-to-face with Apollo Crews, and Crews said, "Look, I'm tired of you guys going around bullying everybody. I'd love to see you try to pull something like that on me." And Priest challenged him to a match tonight. Tozawa then reappeared after the Judgment Day walked off to wish Apollo good luck in his match later on in the show. We had Tommaso Ciampa one-on-one with Bronson Reed, but not just Bronson Reed. Big Bronson Reed. Remember that new nickname they started using for him last week? In case you couldn't tell, he's big. So now he's Big Bronson Reed. Backstage before the match, though, Ciampa walked over to Shinsuke Nakamura. And he said that Nakamura's loss last week was on him. And he'll let it slide that Nakamura, when the match was over, kicked him in the face. Ciampa said that he was about to go settle things with Bronson Reed and did not expect to see Nakamura out there, but if he did, then they were going to have a problem. So, a word of warning to Nakamura and a predictable sign of what was to come. I thought these two had a really good match, Ciampa and Reed. The crowd was very quiet for it until those last couple of minutes, because I think they realized, hey, this is getting real good. And then they started to get more vocal for it, but they were noticeably quiet for a large chunk of the match. Reed stuffed Ciampa's finisher attempt when he went for it. Then he sat down on him. He squashed him right in the middle of the ring, but still Ciampa kicked out. Reed tried to drag Ciampa towards the corner for the tsunami. Ciampa, though, showed some fight. Reed hit him with a senton. Ciampa came right back and ran into a clothesline, but Ciampa shot right back up and went nose to nose, like the big kick out at one. And now the crowd was getting up for the match more than they had up to this point. Reed ran into a high knee from Ciampa, who powered the big guy up. He had an air raid crash. Had a little trouble with him at first. He kind of dropped him back on his feet, but on the second attempt, he got him up. He held him up, and the crowd liked that. Shinsuke Nakamura then walked out. Slowly made his way down the aisle. Ciampa went out to the floor to go confront him in the aisle. Another dumb babyface on this show who was far too easily distracted. So, of course, he paid the price for that. He turned around and ate a shoulder tackle from Big Bronson Reed, who rolled him back into the ring, and he hit the tsunami splash to win the match. Another win for Bronson Reed. Reed has been stringing together some really good matches. And you could probably count them all on one hand. It's not like he's wrestling every single week. But when he is in the ring, the matches he's been having are very good. I think he's looked very good in these matches. This was another strong one here. But on the negative side, that's back-to-back distraction finishes on this show. If you're going to do this, spread them out. Don't do them back-to-back like this. We just had Sammy and Dominic with a distraction finish. We come back and we have another distraction finish. You know, I mean, it's something that they lean on far too often. And at the very least, they could at least put some separation between them so they don't feel like every match on the show is ending the same exact way. Byron Saxton was in the back, and he was back there with Liv Morgan. Morgan confirmed that Raquel Rodriguez was hurt. That's a storyline injury. But she was tough, and she would be back to take care of Rhea Ripley. Tonight, however, Ripley was all mine, she said. Morgan blamed their tag team title loss on Rhea. She was tired of Rhea and reminded us that she was the last person to beat her. Now, I checked on this because I had forgotten about it. And that was on Raw over a year ago in May of last year. Has it really been over a year since Rhea Ripley has lost the match? Apparently so, at least on television. Apparently so. So Morgan said, maybe I'll get beat up, maybe I won't. She said, watch me, and she walked off. When she walked off, in walked Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, the new women's tag team champions. I don't know where the other third of the trio of women's tag team champions was tonight. Matt Cardona, he was not on the show. He might still be in Japan after his match in DDT the other night. Byron, they were upset that Byron would interview Liv before them. They started mocking Rhea Ripley until Rhea showed up. And all of a sudden, they were being very complimentary of Rhea. And then they said, hey, we got to go. And they left. And Rhea then told Byron that she warned Raquel and Liv. She warned them to stay out of their way. They didn't listen, so she took out Raquel, and Liv would be next. And that was supposed to be, after this, Rhea Ripley in a non-title match, going one-on-one with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan comes down to the ring, and Rhea blindsides her. Just wallops her from out of nowhere. Runs her into the barricade, runs her into the ring post. She brings Liv into the ring. She grabs a steel chair. She wraps the chair around Liv's left arm and shoulder, and she stomps on it. Out comes a trainer and a referee to check on Liv. Liv is selling this like her arm is broken. She did a great job selling this. She's crying, she's moaning and screaming. Rhea is just trash-talking her the entire time. She tells Morgan, go have fun in rehab. Then she decides she hasn't had enough. She wraps the chair around Liv's arm for a second time. And she stomps on the chair for a second time. And again, Liv is hysterical. And clearly in a very bad way. So as injury angles go, this was not a bad one. I thought Rhea was great in her role. I thought Liv sold it perfectly. After the break, they showed Liv in the back. She was crying as the trainer was checking on her shoulder. And this was the other possible legitimate injury. And I have yet to see this reported in multiple places. This is coming from one source, that source being Kermit on Reddit, who has been accurate before. But Kermit claims that Liv is dealing with a possible dislocated shoulder. So she may have, and I wonder if it's the same shoulder that she was out with up until recently, if she re-injured the shoulder or if she wasn't fully healed from the shoulder. But it sounds like this is also a cover for a legitimate injury. Now, she wasn't so bad that she couldn't do the injury angle. If her arm and shoulder were that bad, they wouldn't have cleared her to even do that. So again, I don't know how legitimate or how serious it might be. But if it's a matter of a few weeks that she has to miss, I mean, again, they're building Raquel for SummerSlam. So it's not as if there was a planned match with Rhea or, Rhea and Liv. It's going to be Rhea and Raquel. If Liv had to miss a few weeks and miss SummerSlam, it's not the end of the world. But as with Kevin Owens, we just don't know what the extent of the injury is. Hopefully it's not a situation where she came back too soon, and it's the same shoulder that she re-injured. But that is the belief, is that it may have been a dislocated shoulder. So there was an Alpha Academy promo in the back. We had Otis, we had Chad Gable, and we had Maxine Dupree. Chad Gable angrily congratulated the Viking Raiders on their win last week, but said nobody even knew what a Viking rules match was. And Gable wanted an Academy rules match, threatened to put their heads through a chalkboard. He was very angry. Maxine then got some promo time. She said that she's been getting the better of Valhalla every week, and she was not going to drop off just because Valhalla got one over on her last week when she put her through the table in the corner. Maxine challenged her to a singles match next week, which would be the very first singles match of her career. Later on in the show, we had a vignette with the Viking Raiders and Valhalla, and Valhalla accepted her foolish challenge. So that is one of the matches we are getting on Raw next week. We've got the return of Brock Lesnar, and we have Maxine Dupree one-on-one with Valhalla. That could go lots of different ways. We have not seen Maxine Dupree in a singles match. All we've seen her doing is select spots where they protect her and she doesn't have to do too much, and she's done fine. I don't know what she'll look like in a singles match, but we'll find out next Monday. So then we had Ricochet and Logan Paul. Ricochet made his way down to the ring, and he called out Logan Paul. He said he knows that Logan has put the work in, and some might even say that he's special. Ricochet said that he's special every time he gets in the ring. He said that they don't think Logan Paul doesn't belong due to a lack of ability. It's because he's an arrogant prick. He's a prick who doesn't respect what they do. He called him a prick. That's what Brad Maddox got fired for. He called the fans pricks, and Vince McMahon fired him. Apparently now it's acceptable on television. Ricochet said that they go days, weeks, months on the road without seeing their families, which is true. Now look, this is not the schedule that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage were maintaining back in the 80s when Vince McMahon had them running around like circus animals and they were on the road fucking 60 days in a row. Poor Hulk Hogan was traveling to and from Japan 400 days a year this man worked because of the time zone difference. Just ask him. But you do have a lot of wrestlers, they move away from their families, especially if, they're not from this country. I remember Rhea Ripley talked about this during COVID when everything was shut down. I think there was like a two or 3 year period she didn't see her parents, she didn't see her family. So it's tough. It might not be the schedule of 30 years ago, but it's tough. They go a long time without seeing their loved ones sometimes. But he says they do it so that they can get a small chance to fight for something bigger than themselves. He challenged Logan to face him in a match at SummerSlam. All of a sudden, Logan Paul decks him from behind, and then he pulls out his smartphone and he holds it up. I don't know if he was recording or live streaming. I'll assume he was recording something with his phone. And he recorded himself accepting Ricochet's SummerSlam challenge. He said he would show everybody why he is the best in WWE. And then he filmed a guy in the crowd who he said had a stupid mustache. And he called this guy, he said to this guy, "You need to get laid, you stupid virgin." Ricochet kicked up. He super kicked Logan. Logan never let go of his phone. Probably because he was still recording. This is going to pop up now on his social media feed. So he gets super kicked. He falls down. Ricochet hits a standing shooting star press. Grabs the phone out of Logan's hand and he films himself telling him, "See you at SummerSlam, punk." So we had Ricochet calling him a prick, and we had Logan Paul calling a fan in the crowd a stupid virgin. I wasn't sure if I was watching a promo or a Facebook thread. Logan has said, I don't know how many of you have heard some of the recent comments by Logan Paul. Logan Paul has said that he has requested that his match at SummerSlam go on first and open the show. And I would imagine that WWE, Triple H will probably give him what he wants. But he has requested that his match go on first because his brother Jake Paul has a fight that night. He's fighting in Dallas. He's fighting Nate Diaz. So he said that if the match goes on first, when it's over, he's not going to shower, change, or anything. He'll get on a private plane. He says he might be able to make it just in time for the beginning of the fight. I don't care whether he does or he doesn't, but their match is probably going to go on first at SummerSlam because he asked for the time, and I don't see any reason why Triple H would say no. So that will probably be your opening match this year. That's going to be the video game match of the show. Because these two are going to do some crazy shit. Shayna Baszler was interviewed in the back by Jackie Redmond. Baszler said that she's tired of hearing Ronda Rousey's name in reference to everything that she does. She said, talking hasn't settled it, and a match won't settle it. Can't just have a regular wrestling match. So she's going to settle it by fighting Ronda. They're going to have a fight. Later in the show, Redmond caught up with Ronda Rousey, asked her about Baszler's challenge to a fight. Rousey said that Baszler can't challenge her to a fight because anytime she fights, it's the fight. And she accepted her challenge. So we don't know what that means exactly. All Shayna said was, we're going to fight. I'm thinking, as she's saying this, I'm thinking fight pit would make a whole lot of sense. These are two women who are accustomed to fighting in cages. That's what they did before they got into pro wrestling. I was actually wondering if they might consider the fight pit stipulation for Brock Lesnar and Cody, which seems very unlikely at this point. The fight pit, though, would work for Shayna and Ronda. Now, with SummerSlam being in a big stadium, and I don't know what the stadium setup is going to be, it might not be possible for them to get the whole contraption. I mean, if they're going to have they'll probably have like a giant truss or whatever above the ring. If it's a matter of lowering it and raising it, they could probably do it. So unless there's some logistical reason that they can't, fight pit would make sense. Fight pit would make sense. I'm hoping it's a fight pit match. The one with Rollins and Riddle last year, it was good. It wasn't great. I didn't enjoy that as much as I did the NXT ones. Because we had a couple of them in NXT. But for these two, if you were going to do another one of those matches on the main roster, these are the women that you would do it with. We had Damian Priest one-on-one with Apollo Crews. The bell rang. Priest immediately launched a kick, took down Crews. Crews sent Priest to ringside, hit him with a moonsault off the apron. Priest came back with a broken arrow for a 2 count. A little while later, Priest lowered the straps on his gear, and he hit the South of Heaven chokeslam for the win. This was a quick 3-minute showcase for Damian Priest. I have no issue, with them putting him over in a strong way. But this was Apollo Crews' first appearance since being drafted back to the main roster, I believe. And I had forgotten that he was drafted from NXT back to Monday Night Raw because, again, we haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. Maybe he's been wrestling on Main Event. I don't watch Main Event, so I don't know. Shawn Michaels did a better job with him in NXT, if we're being honest. Shawn Michaels did a better job with him in NXT. And he may well be asking to go back there after tonight because I think this pretty much tells you where they have him slotted on the roster. I mean, he shouldn't be going out there and beating Damian Priest right now. But if this is where they have him in the pecking order on this show, if I were him, I'd be wanting to go back to the Performance Center. Not that he was being pushed as like a top star on the brand, but he had a good thing going there. He was getting TV time. He was picking up some wins along the way. Still getting paid still getting paid main roster money, I'm sure. It wasn't a bad gig. So I wonder, as he was being pinned in 3 minutes here on the show, I wonder what was going through his mind. But we had Drew McIntyre and Imperium. We were told coming into tonight that we would have some kind of a face-off between Drew McIntyre and Gunther. So Imperium came out first. It was Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. After they made their entrance, Drew McIntyre made his way to the ring. He said that he heard what Gunther had to say last week when he wasn't there, because he missed the show. He was filming something, I think maybe in Europe, for a new movie that Batista is in with Ice Cube. I talked about this a few weeks ago. So he wasn't there last week. McIntyre said that he was dressed, and they could go ahead and do it right now. Gunther said that it was unacceptable that he would be expected to defend his title in front of the degenerates here in Tampa. He said that he can see why the fans connect with Drew. He and the fans both get nothing done in life. He mentioned that Drew failed at Clash at the Castle. He mentioned that he humiliated him at WrestleMania. He said he would humiliate him again at SummerSlam. And the fans, as Gunther was cutting his promo, the fans gave him the what treatment. So McIntyre said, you want to talk about WrestleMania? We could talk about WrestleMania. He said, I can remember meeting Sheamus when I was 19 and Sheamus was 42. He said their dream was to have a singles match at WrestleMania. He said they got it for about 10 minutes at WrestleMania this year. And then Gunther snuck in and picked the bones and won the match. He said that was a triple threat. At SummerSlam, it will not be a triple threat. It will be one-on-one, and he will become the new Intercontinental Champion. So Ludwig Kaiser, at this point, he stepped in, and he scolded McIntyre for the way that he spoke to Gunther. McIntyre told Kaiser, he goes, I actually like you. Actually, I like you, and I think you should be the one leading Imperium, not him. Kaiser said that he wouldn't let McIntyre disrespect Imperium. McIntyre said that, hey, since Gunther's not going to do anything about it tonight, you and I are dressed, let's have a match. So that led to a match. After the break, it was Drew McIntyre, one-on-one with Ludwig Kaiser. And, Daddy Ugarte in the chat has an interesting suggestion. Apollo Crews should join the Bobby Lashley project. I could think of worse things for him to be doing. He doesn't have anything going for him right now. I am very intrigued, though, to see where the Bobby Lashley stuff goes, because we've now seen him meeting in private with the Street Profits, and we've seen him meeting as well. Who was it on Friday? It was the Street Profits in the limousine previously, and then on SmackDown Friday. Oh gosh, I forgot who it was on SmackDown Friday night, but he was meeting with someone else. I don't know if it's going to be just one giant faction. I don't know if they're just teasing it and it's going to work out a different way with different people. I don't know if, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin are going to have anything to do with it. I don't know where Omos is, nor do I care. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now to see where they go with this Bobby Lashley thing. Yeah, it was Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. That's right, because they had tons of NXT talent. They were in Orlando on Friday. So he was meeting with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams as well. But that's what I mean, though. So they were teasing us with that. But I don't get the impression that Carmelo and Trick are being called up to the main roster anytime soon. So if he's meeting with them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be joining with him, because they're not even on SmackDown. You know, it could be a red herring for something else. But yeah, I think that's an idea that maybe they should consider, because Apollo Crews, he doesn't have a whole lot going on right now. The problem is Apollo Crews is on Raw. Although I guess the brand split, hey, nobody else pays attention to the fucking rules, so why does it matter, right? He's on Raw, so what? Nothing is stopping him from showing up on SmackDown. Paul Heyman needed a guest pass to show up at one point. Now you don't even need that. You just show up. So sure, why not? But we had McIntyre one-on-one with Ludwig Kaiser. Corey Graves on commentary was doing commentary in Ludwig Kaiser's voice. And I will give him credit. It sounded like Kaiser himself was doing commentary on his own match. The problem is somebody probably really liked it so much. He kept doing it. And it got a little old after a while. There was a "We want tables" chant because they were fighting at one point by the announce desk early on. We're going to come back to that because that actually ended up paying off a little bit later on. McIntyre chopped Kaiser while on the top rope, brought him down with white noise. Drew followed with an overhead, actually a series of overhead suplexes, neck breaker, and a headbutt. He went for the Claymore kick. Kaiser, though, countered with a kick of his own. McIntyre, though, came back, hit the Claymore, and got the pin. Immediately, when the match ends, Gunther gets into the ring. He attacks Drew, gave him a German suplex. Imperium put the boots to him until Matt Riddle ran out. He was in jeans, trying to make the save. Gunther ends up powerbombing Riddle, so sayonara to him. He was taken out of the picture. Gunther went, he cleared off the announce desk, and the crowd popped huge. Because, again, they teased it earlier. They didn't give because the crowd wanted somebody to go through the table. So they didn't get it earlier. Now, of course, they see the table is going to break, and so they get all happy. It's one of the few moments tonight that really popped the Florida crowd was the prospect of the announce desk being shattered here. Gunther set up for a powerbomb. McIntyre reversed it into a back body drop, and then he put Gunther in position for a powerbomb. He picked him up, and he powerbombed him through the announce table. And then he posed with the Intercontinental title to close out the segment. That is one of the matches I am most looking forward to on the SummerSlam card. Drew McIntyre and Gunther. I don't believe there will be a title change. I don't believe there should be a title change, not yet. But we get those two guys one-on-one. As great as the triple threat was at WrestleMania this year, I am very much looking forward to seeing these two get a one-on-one platform. In front of a big stadium, 45,000 people, just to go out there and beat the holy hell out of each other. That's going to be fun. The show closed with the contract signing for SummerSlam with Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. Rollins told Balor that he has zero chance of walking out of SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion. The likely outcome is Rollins beating him and the crowd singing his song. He said, but in the unlikely event that Balor wins, his reign is going to be shorter than the one he had with the Universal title. Because his boy, Damian Priest, is going to cash in his money in the bank on him. He said SummerSlam isn't going to be the coronation of the Judgment Day. It is going to be the end of the Judgment Day. You want to take a bet? You want to make bets? I'll bet you it's not the end of the Judgment Day. They end the Judgment Day. What are they going to fill these shows with? What is Raw going to look like? They break up the Judgment Day. How are you going to fill up 3 hours of Raw? They're leaning into this so much. They would have no programming if they broke up the Judgment Day, all the TV time they've been getting. So Balor told Seth, what you're saying is basically if I lose, I lose, and if I win, I lose. And as he said this, each member, they cut to the crowd in different parts of the crowd, each of the other members of the Judgment Day came walking down to the ring. And they got up on the apron and they surrounded the ring. Balor spoke about the insanity that he has felt for the past 7 years. He said it's like an itch that he can't scratch. It's like a 7-year itch. He told Seth, at SummerSlam, I'm going to make you my 7-year bitch. Boy, they love that word, don't they? They love that word. Rollins realized that he was outnumbered. He looked around. He saw the other members of the Judgment Day. Basically, he said, fuck it. Overturned the table that was in the ring. He went after Balor. And then he got clobbered in the head by the Money in the Bank briefcase. And Damian Priest is standing over Seth Rollins' body. As Finn Balor comes over to him, and the look he was shooting at Damian Priest, like daggers in the eyes, right? Wondering, what is he about to do here? We don't know what he may or may not have done, because we hear the theme music for Sami Zayn. He runs down to the ring with a steel chair to help fight them off. He, though, is quickly outnumbered, quickly overwhelmed. Priest put him down with the South of Heaven chokeslam. Priest, Rhea, and Dominic, they buried, there's that word, they buried Sami, literally buried him, outside the ring underneath the table and chairs that had been in the ring for the contract signing that the Judgment Day threw out of the ring. So they buried him underneath the rubble. They all got back inside. They ganged up on Seth Rollins. Priest dumped him with a razor's edge. Dominic then landed a frog splash. Balor finished him off with the double stomp off the top. And the Judgment Day stand tall. The Judgment Day end the show the way they started it. On television, in the ring, standing tall. So when Raw started tonight, it began with the Judgment Day, and it ended with the Judgment Day. This was the Judgment Day show tonight. That is how Raw went off the air. It's like an Oreo cookie. You have the filling, the white filling in the middle. But this is just, it's like a double fudge, just like all blackout chocolate cookie. Where it's like the bottom part, the top part, and the middle part. It's all the same. So the Judgment Day is all over the place right now. And if you like the Judgment Day, then you're probably liking these shows. But again, what's going to end up happening here is if this keeps up at this pace, where they are literally on every single show, even the developmental show, you will burn people out on them. I think even some of the people who like them. So they have to be careful and start to pull back a little bit. Less is more. Give me a little bit less of them. Maybe I'll want to see them more. Give me too much of them. I'm not going to want to see them at all. That's the problem they run here with how much television exposure they are giving to this group. And I know Rhea Ripley is insanely popular, and it makes sense that they would want to feature her. She's the best they have in that division. But yeah, it's getting to the point now where they have to really start to be careful. I didn't think it was a bad show. I was kind of bored during parts of the show, but I didn't hate the show or anything like that. It was not as good as last week. And we have, what do we have? A week and a half? 10 days or so? What is today? The 25th. We have 10 days. 10 days until SummerSlam. So the card is finally taking shape officially. We have Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. We have Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Still no stipulation. Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus is not official yet, but after tonight it will be. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey in some sort of fight, maybe a fight pit. Rhea Ripley likely defending her title against Raquel Rodriguez. Asuka defending her championship in a triple threat against Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. So they're going to have 4 women's matches. I believe 4 of them on the show this year, which may be a SummerSlam record. That might be something to look up. Has there ever been a SummerSlam that has had 4 different women's matches on the same show? Logan Paul and Ricochet is official. Drew McIntyre and Gunther is official. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight title is official. What am I missing? The U.S. title probably not going to be defended, I would guess. Probably going to be defended on television and not SummerSlam. There was a report today that supposedly, to piggyback off something I was talking about on the podcast just yesterday, and by the way, I will give it a plug now. If you missed it, check out the full podcast because there's a lot of good stuff on there. But the clip is up on the YouTube channel right now. Reports of an LA Knight push. That LA Knight is in line for a big push post SummerSlam. But it comes with an ominous warning. And I talk about that in the clip that's up on the channel right now. I think it's closing in on 20,000 views on YouTube alone. So go check that out and leave a comment. But there was another report today that they are considering some sort of segment for LA Knight on the SummerSlam card, which is exactly what I was advocating for on the podcast yesterday, because it would be insane to not have him at least come out and get an entrance and cut a promo on that show. But apparently they are considering some kind of segment that could ultimately turn into a match. And that is interesting, because one of the ideas that I was talking about is an idea that actually somebody brought it up the other night on the SmackDown stream. And I talked more about it yesterday, where there is still a chance that we could see LA Knight challenging for the United States Championship at SummerSlam. If he was to defend his title successfully the night before, let's say against Santos Escobar, if it ends up being Escobar, and the way that I described it yesterday, he comes out at SummerSlam upset that the U.S. champion wouldn't be featured on one of the biggest shows of the year. Anybody in the back wants to come out and try to take this from me? Here comes LA Knight. And that turns into a match. It's still doable. Still possible that could happen. Might be unlikely, but it was encouraging to read that, though, that at least they're smart enough to understand you don't want to leave this guy off the show altogether. He should have some kind of a role on that show, whether he wrestles or not. So fingers crossed on that. Here's the Twitter poll for Raw tonight. 59% thumbs up and roughly 41% thumbs down. So that's pretty much in line with what I just said. Not as good as last week, but also not a bad show. 59 up is kind of a lukewarm thumbs up. I'd say that sounds about right. Do I have to start calling this the X poll, by the way? Am I not allowed to call it a Twitter poll anymore, since the wonderful Elon himself has changed the name of the company? He acquired a globally recognizable brand and decided, you know what I'll do today? I'm going to change the name. I'm going to change the logo. I'm going to change the name. I'm going to call it X. You know what's funny about this X nonsense? Apparently, Microsoft, I believe it's Microsoft and Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, I believe they already have the rights on social media to use X. And I don't believe Elon does. So that may end up being a court fight. I don't know. It may be back to Twitter in the next couple of days. Doesn't sound to me like he thought this out pretty well. He wanted to change the logo on the side of the building. He got shot down because he didn't have the permit. So the cops shut him down and said, you can't do it. I mean, my God, for a guy who's supposed to be so smart, my God, is he stupid. So I'm still calling it Twitter. You can call it whatever you want. This is like one of those WWE name changes. We're going to change your name. Why? Well, just for the sake of it. Yeah, well, I'm still going to use the original name. Thank you very much. So yeah, go vote in the Twitter poll at Solomonster. X. Does that make him Professor X? How do you change the name of the company, or even the logo, not knowing that you may not have the rights to do so? I guess because he fired everybody. Maybe he fired his legal counsel too, so he doesn't have people whose job normally would be to look into this kind of stuff. Maybe they were fired, they were laid off, and he didn't bother to do his due diligence, I guess. I don't know. This X thing doesn't sound like it's going to last. All right, let's take a look at your super chats here. Thank you, by the way, to everybody hanging out with me on a Monday night. I do appreciate you guys very much. Starting our week out strong. Brother Fluff Salisbury kicking things off. It's almost as if, if I didn't know any better, I would almost think he was doing this on purpose to try to sabotage his own company. He's doing a hell of a job, if that's the case. I love that Cody brought up Gordon Soley. CWF Wrestling was filmed about 5 miles away from the Amalie Arena. Yes, indeed, Championship Wrestling from Florida. So long from the Sunshine State. A perk angle popping up on my screen here. Golden Lovers says hello in the chat. Hello, Golden Lovers. What's going on? The real CSO2. Do you think that backstage politics and or ego is likely for why we may never get a WWE AEW Forbidden Door show? No, WWE, they don't do business with other companies that they deem a competitor. If they do any sort of working relationship or business of some kind with indie promotions, it's because they're not threatened by them. But you're never going to see WWE doing anything like that with an AEW, or, you know, they would have done that with Ring of Honor when Sinclair still owned Ring of Honor. They're not going to do it. And look at their business right now. Their business is booming. They don't need to go work with other companies if they don't want to. You know, when you're in the number one position and you're making money the way that they're making money and they're selling out buildings every week now, they're a hot ticket. The last thing they need to do, if they don't want to, is work with other companies. They like playing in their own sandbox. So it's not even a matter of ego. It's just a matter of that's just how Vince McMahon has always done business. You know, you could find examples of things back in the 90s where he would work with other promotions, but WWE was a hell of a lot smaller back then than they are now. They don't have to work with anybody they don't want to. You know, they don't like acknowledging people outside of their little universe. HKV97 dropping their first ever super chat. Wanted to drop off a little super chat to let the Solomonster know we appreciate him, and he has been my go-to podcast for the past 13 years. How about that? A $13 super chat for 13 years of the sound. Hey, HKV, thank you very much. Happy to have you. Hey, that's most of my run, too. November is going to be 16 years I've been doing this show. He's been with me for 13 of those 16 years. 0 Point, the $25 Brie mode. Could not help noticing those prominent LA Knight shirts in the front row, and on Monday also. Interesting. Seems like WWE does not want us to forget about it. There's some people who got angry at me when I made the comment on the podcast that they're planting the yeah signs in the crowd. I even said, like, there are people who are bringing their own signs, but you can see these sections. It's very clear the WWE is also distributing them themselves. And some people got very upset at them. People get upset at everything these days. It's kind of funny. I enjoy it. I really do. Sometimes my days, I'm working so hard. It's just, kind of a drag of a day. And when I can upset people in some way, and I see how upset they get, it brings me joy. It really does. Puts a smile on my face that they get that worked up about it. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. That damn Judgment Day. Bunch of bullies. They're doing a great job increasing the heat. Rizzo with the $10 super chat. The injuries are why I still don't understand not putting the title on Cody. God forbid Roman or Cody get hurt before WrestleMania. Never know with injuries. They're very lucky. I got to tell you, they're very lucky that Roman Reigns has been able, knock on wood, he's been able to stay healthy this entire time. He's made it this far, over 1,000 days as champion. He may go another 1,000 before all is said and done. Who knows? Because that would be one catastrophic injury is all it takes. And I say catastrophic, I don't mean like the injury itself has to be catastrophic. They're one injury away, though, from a catastrophic situation where this long reign ends with him having to forfeit the championship. What a disaster that would be. Although Roman doesn't wrestle very often, so that's probably why he hasn't gotten hurt, right? The less he works, the less risk there is involved of him getting hurt. But, man, that's always got to be in the back of their mind, though. Paul Hamilton with that $100 super chat bomb that he dropped earlier. Again, Paul, thank you very much. The commissioner salutes you. Thank you, sir. Christopher Smith with the $4.99. Rhea beating up Liv and breaking her arm and then have fun in rehab. I loved the segment and Rhea looked dominant. Yes, indeed. 0 Point. I don't see how Dominic isn't the best heel in WWE right now. Hands down. No one is even close to his heat level. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. I'm going to get heat for this. Says Dominic Mysterio is more evil than MJF so far. I don't know if evil is the right word. More heat, you could... I mean, certainly MJF right now is being treated like a babyface. Evil, though? There's nothing evil about Dominic. The only people who say Dominic is evil are the ones who are jealous that he gets to work with Rhea Ripley every week. Buddy Matthews, for instance. Buddy Matthews might look at Dominic and think he's an evil little SOB. Very possible. Ennis with the 1999. Spoiler, Cody against Brock will end in a disqualification, and that will be the end of the stale Cody-Lesnar feud, because it is the return of Randy Orton. The feud we deserve. Cody against Orton, fire promos and matches. Yeah, I mean, the only issue with that is Orton coming back. It's hard to imagine him coming back and not being cheered. I almost feel like he should come back as a babyface, and you could always do a turn later on with him. But if Orton does come back, and I think he will at some point, Cody and Orton is a natural feud. I like the idea of Cody Orton more than the possible, it's been rumored, possible Cody and Bray Wyatt. Cody and Orton is a lot more appealing to me. Plus, there's a history there, so I like the feud. It's just I think people are going to want to cheer for him when he comes back. Red Emissary of Darkness. Graves does a scarily good Ludwig impression. He does. I gave him credit. It just it went on a little long, but I thought he did a great job with it. Jalen Legrand. Personally, I feel like Edge's return has been shit. Well, tell me how you really feel. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been overly exciting to me, but look, the guy thought he was done. He had the chance to come back after 9 years on the shelf to work with some of the newer guys and try to go out on his terms. Can't hate on the guy for that. B2B Reviews, thank you for the super chat. Yuri with the $5. Do you truly see Damian Priest winning a world title, or since they teased now you can go for that, a mid-card title? Feel he should eventually get Seth. Do I see him winning a world heavyweight title? I do. I think he'll have a run. I do think he'll have a run with the big gold belt at some point. I don't know if he's going to cash in on Seth or if he'll win it a different way, but I'm going to say yes. He also says, do you ever see Finn as a world champion again? I think that if Seth Rollins beats Finn Balor at SummerSlam, probably not. It's going to come down to SummerSlam. I actually feel like Balor should probably get the world title and get a run with it. But if it doesn't happen on August 5th, I don't see it happen. Terrence Toussaint with the $9.99 made a career change, becoming a science teacher. Your work helps me stay up and plan for the upcoming school year. Stay great, my friend. Well, Terrence, thank you very much, and congrats on the new gig. What was the previous gig? You told me you're a science teacher now, but what were you doing before that? Yuri says, you get one. Only one? Bret Hart against William Regal or Owen Hart against Bryan Danielson? Which one do you want? Oh, I'd probably go Owen Hart and Bryan Danielson on that one. I gotta go Danielson and Owen. Jazz Jackrabbit, we need a confetti dropping graphic when you hit the B2B lights. One that misses the middle of the screen and goes off to the side, or a 3-minute pyro. Well, the goal tonight was 400, and we are at 362, which means we are lagging. And we're coming up on the end here, so it's in your hands. You want to be the booker? We need about, what do we need? 40 more? 40 more likes will get us there, and then we can have a confetti celebration, but it's up to you guys. Dr. Scorpio, it's rare, or it's a rare talent, to be a genius and an idiot at the same time like Elon Musk is. Good Lord, that is terrible. Christopher Smith, I love Priest mentioning his Ring of Honor name in promos. I do notice that. Old Punishment Martinez. Juan Sanchez, this whole X nonsense is just another story of the week for us mindless sheep to be fake mad about. Yuri says, is Austin Theory a lost cause or a need for a refresh? Not the biggest fan myself, but see he can do more. No, he's not a lost cause. He's just, right now, he's just lost. I wouldn't call him a lost cause. There's talent there. I think they see him as a future main eventer in that company. Maybe even a future top babyface. Right now, it's not clicking because the creative is not there. Simple as that. And his character and his personality on the show, it's too similar now to some of the other people. They have Grayson Waller on the same brand with him. You know, there's not a whole lot of differences in the two characters. He's got to find a way to differentiate himself. Whether that means you give him a mean streak and he turns into an evil son of a bitch, or you go in a completely different direction with him. I don't think turning him babyface right now is the answer. But he has not gotten the creative support that he needs coming out of WrestleMania. It's just amazing to me how they have dropped the ball with somebody who they had enough faith to put in a spot at WrestleMania against John Cena, who does not wrestle very much anymore. It's very rare you get him back in the ring. You gave that spot to Theory and you had nothing to follow up with it on. I mean, it's just amazing to me how they dropped the ball. So, you know, watching Theory now in a lot of these segments is like watching paint dry. The quicker they get the belt off of him, the better. I said this yesterday. The belt is doing nothing for him. He is not doing anything for the belt except dragging it down into the abyss. But is he a lost cause? No, he's not a lost cause. Uffman Entertainment, your Vince McMahon from the podcast this Sunday sounded a lot like Jimmy Snuka. Well, Vince McMahon's voice has undergone quite the transformation over the years, unfortunately. It sounds like he's gargling concrete. Not the Vince McMahon of old. We'll never get announcer Vince back. Because that version of Vince died a long time ago. Ugh. WWE Universe. It's terrible. It's awful. Snuka's a little bit different. Snuka just... the Snuka voice is more like he just woke up from a... You know, like the anesthesia wear it off. Like he was sedated for some kind of operation, and then he woke up. Where am I, brother? Vince is more like... There's a distinct difference between the two voices. By the way, I'm being told that we have, in fact, hit our goal, so let the confetti rain down. There it is. 400 likes has been smashed. We're over 410, so thank you for that. You wanted your confetti? You got your confetti. Is that what I gotta do? I gotta bribe you SOBs with fucking confetti now? Is that what I gotta do? I don't work hard enough for you as it is. You're gonna make me work even more? Is that how it's gonna be? Yuri, a $10 super chat. Remember when Max Caster called Murphy a cuck and Brody King looked at him and Buddy was there like ... I feel like it's been obvious Buddy is irked by that Dominic and Rhea shit. Look at WWE HOF LMAO. I don't know what that means, but... Oh, the Hall of Fame. Okay, yeah. Yes. He was there. I forgot he was there. He was there at the Hall of Fame this year. I don't know. I think he's just having fun with it. Super Pony. If Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have to vacate the titles. Would you have Owens turn on him when he comes back, or do you keep them together? You got to go for the classic Kevin Owens turn. You know he's going to turn on him at some point. Yuri again. Oh, I think it's the same one. Look at that. Got the same one twice. Hey, Yuri, thank you, man. I appreciate all the support tonight. Rizzo with the $10. The same Twitter, I mean X, accounts that are saying Bray is coming back at SummerSlam are the same ones that said Orton was coming back at Money in the Bank. So, like Solomonster said, take these rumors with a grain of salt. I said take them with a healthy dose of skepticism, because at the end of the day, they are still Twitter accounts. Now, unless a verifiable source, like a PW Insider or a Fightful, comes out and backs up the reports, always take it with a grain of salt. Thunder Force says, do you think Vince McMahon would have let Bret Hart go to WCW had Steve Austin had his neck surgery in 1997? One had nothing to do with the other. The only reason he let Bret go is because Bret was not willing to backload his contract. He wanted his contract as is. Vince could not afford to pay him. Whether or not Steve Austin went under the knife would have made no difference at all. He couldn't pay Bret. He couldn't pay Bret. He was going to breach the contract no matter what. So I don't think it would have had any effect. Yuri. That's the third time that's super. I wonder if he sent it 3 times or if for some reason it's just showing up 3 times. I'm not sure. But Chris Mikesell just got a Sound Off 13th anniversary shirt. I love that design, brother. Yeah, a lot of people like the 13th anniversary one. I think that's the Friday the 13th themed one. That is still up, by the way. It is up on Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com/Solomonster Sounds Off. The t-shirt link should always be in the description of every video I do to the store. You got like 30 different designs up there. All of the, I think from the either the 8th year or the 10-year anniversary t-shirt designs all the way through the most recent one that I did, or Steve did. Shout out to Steve Mello. They're all up in the store. But yeah, I think Steve was the mastermind behind that one, so he is the wizard behind that anniversary design. We should start thinking about 16, by the way. We got to come up with something cool for 16. 16 years. Maybe we can play off the numbers in some way. I don't know. We got to start thinking about it. Yuri says, yeah, that was my bad. Sorry. Site lagged and sent twice. Not mad, though. Enjoy the double up. I think it was a triple. So thank you. Yuri, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know. It was either a double or a triple. And Best Always with the $10 super chat. Rhea as champion. Her run equals failure. We need an HBK Sherry moment where Dominic accidentally knocks her out. Even Stephanie got it from Triple H. Great show. Yeah, Sherry took a hell of a bump. She took a mirror to the head. I remember that. That was when Marty Jannetty came back on that episode of Superstar. Ah, the good old days. The good old days of the golden era. Even if business at that point was a 92, I think business was in the shitter, basically. But business was in the shitter for WWE and WCW in 92, 93. The funny thing about that is, well, first of all, I love those years as far as WWE goes. But WCW, their business was really, I mean, the shits around that period of time. But the quality of their shows in like 92, 93, the stuff that Sting was doing and Vader, and they had the Bulldog there, and Rick Rude was still there. I mean, they had some incredible matches back then. So the business they were doing or not doing, I don't think was any kind of reflection of the quality of what WCW was putting out in ring at that point. The best War Games match I ever saw, I think, is still 1992 Wrestle War. Sting Squadron against the Dangerous Alliance. But business for everybody, I think, in this country was down across the board at that point. I don't know how it was in Mexico and Japan, but it's just how it was. Slim Yoshi, Solomonster, who do you think will dethrone Rhea in the future? I've seen people calling for Liv, but I don't see it. For me, I believe it should be Bianca, who dethrones Rhea. Bianca Belair is a good choice. I think they have to do that match at some point. It could be Becky. Becky at some point, I'm sure, is going to be back on top. I think Becky and Rhea probably is the match for WrestleMania next year. As far as Liv, no. I don't. Who's calling for Liv to be the one to dethrone Rhea Ripley? It's not going to be Liv Morgan. It's not going to be Liv Morgan. It should not be Liv Morgan. Sweet 16. You know what? There's probably something we can do there with the design for the 16th anniversary, like a Sweet 16. We have some time. Trill Mexican 305. Seeing where the WWE Tag Team Champions are at now, I still stand by what I said that the Usos against Zayn and KO should not have taken place. Since then, they have done nothing. Anyways, have a good night, Solo. Well, what else would they be doing if they were not partnered up as tag team champions? Because Zayn and Owens, they had their run with Roman. It was over. I'm not sure at this moment what else they would be doing. And it's something they always wanted. They always wanted to be tag team champions in WWE, which they never were before. It was sort of a personal thing that I know was very important to them. And so now they're having their run. It's going to come to an end at some point, hopefully not due to injury. And then they'll either go their separate ways or they'll just branch out and start doing singles again, I don't mind them doing the tag team thing for a while. I think it would be a sin for them to break up before we get DIY back together. I'm still pulling for it. I don't know what's going on with Johnny Gargano, but I would like to see DIY get a proper run on the main roster. And I would like for them to wrestle Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn before they break up. It's going to be a damn shame if that happens before we have a chance to see that match. So I'm still pulling for it. All right, here we go. You guys smashed the goal, so let us go ahead here and be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen,
hey, look, it's the Judgment Day.
Time to be the booker.
As if they weren't on all the shows, now they're in Be the Booker as well. I mean, you had to. You had to know that it would be the Judgment Day thumb opening up Be the Booker tonight. It just seems appropriate. Let's kick things off. Let's kick things off with a big one. I want a big match. That's what I want. Then we're going to get back to your final super chats. If you got questions, you want to support, whatever it may be, get them on in. Then we're going to get on out of here. We begin with Sheamus. There he is, the Celtic warrior himself. Has held every championship that really needs to be... Chris, thank you for the super chat. Held every championship that really needs to be recognized, except still for the Intercontinental title, which he will win at some point before he hangs it up. Sheamus is going to go one-on-one with Orange Cassidy. There you go. All the Orange Cassidy haters, now their heads are going to explode. I gave him the bell. Oh, how could you give him the bell? Oh, you give him the bell. It's pockets. It's pockets. How can you give him the bell? It's pockets. Oh my God. I don't know what I'm doing. That would be a damn good match. Sheamus and Orange Cassidy. There you go. Who's going to beat Orange Cassidy to win the international title? How about Sheamus? See, if they swung the forbidden door open between the two companies, Sheamus can win the international title. I like that match. That'd be a good match. All right, here we go. On the ladies' side, we begin with Lita, former WWE Women's Champion and I guess Women's Tag Team Champion. Lita. Go one-on-one with Athena. Athena has been doing an incredible job as the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. It's too bad nobody really talks about it because, again, Ring of Honor is behind a paywall. I'm willing to bet not a lot of people aren't seeing, frankly, her work. But she has put together a pretty great string of matches this year. And it's good to see her getting some attention, getting a push. Lita and Athena. I like it. So we're 2 for 2 here heading into the main event. We'll book ourselves a tag team match. Let's not screw this up. We have the Young Bucks. The Buckaroos. If people's heads were exploding for Orange Cassidy, they're probably splattering all over the place for these two now. Two of the more polarizing figures in wrestling, I would say. The Young Bucks, former AEW Tag Team Champions. And it will be the Young Bucks stepping into the ring with the powers of pain. What a mismatch that would be. I gotta say, I like the Bucks. The Bucks have had some great matches. Not denying that. But as somebody who grew up on 1980s and early 90s wrestling, watching teams that looked like the Powers of Pain, the Powers of Pain against the Young Bucks back in the day would have been a match that you would see on Saturday morning on Superstars. And it would have ended in 3 minutes, and they would have been squashed. So my perspective on this is maybe a little bit different than a newer fan or a younger fan. To me, trying to book main event matches here, that's not a main event match. That is a match that you would have seen on Wrestling Challenge, and it would have ended badly for the Young Bucks. It would not have ended well for them. Warlord and the Barbarian, they would have been vicious with Matt and Nick Jackson. Daniel Malcolm. Ricochet talking about missing family when he's got a whole ass fiance sitting right there. Oh, Ricochet. I thought you were talking about somebody named Ricochet. Like, what the fuck? You're talking about Rick O'Shea. Yeah, Samantha Irvin is sitting right there. He doesn't have to venture very far. Chris Mikesell, did you like the European title? I liked the design, but it was only around during the Attitude Era. D'Lo Brown was my favorite who held that title. He was my favorite European champion also. I like the European title. Yeah, I like the European title. And the design, the physical design, I also like the physical belt. HBKC83 with the $5 super chat says, in my opinion, what is the one pay-per-view that comes to mind where the majority of the matches sucked, but one match saved it? Bad Blood in Your House. At the very first Hell in a Cell between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. I can't think of another match on that show that I have any interest in going back and watching. I know there was a tag team flag match on that show. There was I believe that was the show that had, oh God, was it Owen and Farouk? Maybe? Was it that show? Was it Owen and Farouk in the finals of the Intercontinental? I don't remember, but yeah, I would Bad Blood to me, it's a one-match show right there. And that one match is one of the best matches in the history of that company. WrestleMania 13 is another one. Bret Hart and Steve Austin submission match. The rest of that WrestleMania show, the Chicago Street Fight was not bad. The Chicago Street Fight, it was Ahmed Johnson and LOD against the Nation of Domination. That was not terrible. But WrestleMania 13, I think, is another great example. It's a one-match show. You take out the Bret Hart-Steve Austin match, you have the worst WrestleMania of all time. Some people would still call it maybe the worst WrestleMania of all time, even despite the match. I can't do that because you can't call that WrestleMania the worst of anything if it had that level of quality of match on that show. When it had one of the best matches in company history on the show. It might be one of the lower ranked WrestleManias, but you cannot call it the worst. It was not worse than WrestleMania 11. It just wasn't. Trill Mexican. 10-star match between Sheamus and Orange Cassidy. 20 stars in the Tokyo Dome on January 4th. Well-booked Solomonster. I try to book the best I can. I try. Dr. Scorpio says, so far July has been very good and ominous for Be the Booker. We are... Our batting average here is .666. You said so far for June, it's July. Apparently, Dr. Scorpio, he's been drinking again. He was drinking the other night, and now he was drinking again tonight. He thinks it's June. And he said July at the beginning of the super chat, but then he said June. So I'm not sure he's aware of what month it is. It's very sad. Thunder Force says, what match are you surprised never happened on pay-per-view? For me, it is The Undertaker against Chris Jericho. Yeah, that is surprising, actually. It's weird that for all the years they spent working in the same company on the same roster, that they never had a pay-per-view program. That is very strange. That is very strange. I'm trying to think of another one that never happened on pay-per-view. You know what? I would take it back to the early 90s. I was very surprised that we never got Hogan and Flair on pay-per-view. I was surprised we never got Ric Flair and Roddy Piper on pay-per-view. Two people Flair was feuding with when he first came into the company. We never got pay-per-view matches in WWE. You know, eventually we got it in WCW, but not in WWE. Kevin says, WrestleMania 9 is better than WrestleMania 11. WrestleMania 9, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was a great show, because it wasn't. WrestleMania 9 is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. There's just something about that show that it has a certain charm. I'll put it that way. And no, it was not the worst WrestleMania of all time. Absolutely not. Daddy Ugarte says Goldberg and Hogan. Yeah, that's a good... Well, if you're going to expand it, I guess, beyond WWE, yeah. Hogan, Goldberg, that should have been on pay-per-view. You're not wrong there. Could have made a lot of money on that match. Back then, man, it was all about ratings. That was the most important thing. Bischoff was obsessed. And Dr. Scorpio says, bite my shiny metal ass. All love, Solo. You have a shiny metal ass? What does that mean? You have a plate in your ass? Were you in some kind of accident? They had to put, like Lex Luger had a steel plate implanted in his forearm. You had a metal plate put in your ass. That must be a bitch when you go through airport security. I don't envy you. Anyway, thank you guys for all the love. I appreciate it. Fun Be the Booker as well. Hopefully we get to do it again on Wednesday, but it's up to you. As always, I'm going to be live with you again on Wednesday night for AEW Dynamite, coming off Blood and Guts last week. So now we should start to get some match announcements for the big Wembley show, because that's the next big show coming up. And they're going to have to start announcing some stuff. Supposedly, they have 76,000 tickets out for the show. I think it's like 69,000 paid or something. But the total attendance is getting very close to 80. And you have to imagine that once they start announcing matches for the show, it'll pick up a little bit. 80 seems like a slam dunk to me. 90 is not going to happen. I think it's... I would be surprised at this point if 90 were to happen. 80 is very doable, though. So, but they have to start announcing some matches, and I think we'll start getting that probably on Wednesday. But as I mentioned earlier, if you missed it, do check out the podcast from yesterday. It was nearly 2 hours long, covered a lot of ground, but the segment here is also on YouTube about LA Knight. And I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this whole situation? And what do you think about what I said? So find the clip here on the channel. Leave a comment. Leave a like. Always helps out. I appreciate that. And until Wednesday night, we'll do it all over again. So be well. Stay safe. And I will see you back here soon for more Sound Off live here on YouTube. Take care, guys.